they have a set path that's pretty straightforward at a certain point. At first they're going to bump into things, but at a certain point they're just like, no, you know, they're just sort of practical and grounded and stable and down to earth and realistic, and that's a good quality to have. But 5s sometimes feel like they're getting hit by the universe because people are like lemmings, and if you're the teacher lemming as a 5 and you go off the cliff the wrong way, you're going to carry 200 lemmings off the cliff with you, and then the angels have an enormous problem. So it's easier to stop you than it is to stop 200 other people. So the angels will tend to hit a 5 really hard, not because they're being bad, but because a 5 is so physical, it's so earthy, it's so determined, it's like a Mack truck or a train. And so if you're a train and you're going, you get so much momentum that if I said stop, it still stops 5 miles down the track. And so a 5 has to be stopped early, and so the angels will hit them kind of hard to stop them early, to make them be aware that they can't go that way. And they'll get frustrated. They'll feel like they're hitting their head against a wall and the wall won't bend. But the angel's going, don't go that way, don't go that way, don't go that way, don't go that way. Whereas other people can get away with it, a 5 can never get away with it. So then what happens is that they back up and they have to go another direction. So that's usually the coaching that I have for a 5. Then we go to a 6 vibration, and the 6 vibration is called an arc line. Now what this means is that you have a rainbow of energy that goes from nipple to nipple, and it encompasses your heart. And so literally your heart is like this rainbow of light and color and love and beauty and acceptance and joy, and it's this beautiful thing. So I like to think of the 6 as the poly pure heart number. It's that super goody two-shoes, religious, you know, save the world, rescue 911 kind of number. So the archetype that I use for this particular one is Saint Hildegard. And if you know anything about Saint Hildegard, she was this amazing nun that was a musician, and she made these incredible songs, and she was an artist, and she did all these incredible things. Like, she was so vast in her creative expression, but her creative expression had a spiritual motivation behind it. So it was like church music, things for religion, things to inspire people, stained glass, things like that. So 6s can be very, very artistic, and they can be very creative, but it's their spiritual side that it's like they're trying to show light, you know, whereas some people artistically might be trying to show emotion or suffering. A 6 doesn't want to do that. A 6 wants to inspire, and it wants to uplift, and it wants to create beauty, okay? So 6s are the poly pure heart, goody two-shoes, super kind, save the world, service-oriented, good listeners. So you think of it like a monk, a nun, a priest. So a person who will be very considerate of other people and listen, and they're very patient. And so that 6 vibration says they always try to come from their heart. They always try to come from their heart. They always try to come from their heart. So a person who has a 6 gift would be a person in past lives that has been very spiritual, religious spiritual, you know, whereas some of the other numbers would not be as religious. This would be a very religious spiritual number. Like, there's a book, there's a way, there's a form, there's a structure, there's a monastery, that's where we're going. And so 6s would have a tendency to like peacefulness and solitude and quiet, okay? Now, then if you go to a 7 vibration, the 7 vibration is about strategies and structures and boundaries. So again, think of Pythagoras and the structure of life, the structure of signs, spiritual signs, the structure of the bones, the structure of tarot cards, the structure of the palm, if you could read the palm. So a lot of mystics have a 7 in their vibration, but it's a left brain thing, like, I know that when I see that sign, it means da-da-da, okay? Whereas a 9 vibration, which we haven't gotten to yet, is more like it's just sort of flowing this way, and now I know this, okay? I don't know why I know this, but I know this. Whereas a 7 goes, I know this because that's a sign, right? So it has a different kind of flow to it. So I like to think of the best strategist that I could come up with as an archetype as Ben Franklin. So this guy was amazing. So did you read that book on Ben Franklin, that biography of Ben Franklin? It's just really amazing, because his whole strategy for writing the stories as a woman's voice. So he basically wrote all these stories pretending that he was a woman, writing it from a woman's perspective. to get people to look at things when it was really him writing it, right? So he did it as a strategy, right? Because he thought a woman's perspective would be more interesting, or people would take more sympathy to it, okay, than if it was him. He took a lot of the great phrases and changed them just slightly and made them famous phrases. Okay, so he has all of his famous quotes, but if you look at his research, he took these quotes that were kind of good to start with, and he strategized them and tweaked them, and he made them better so that now they're used just like all the time. We use them so much people don't even know they're his. So when somebody has a 7 vibration, they love to manage and supervise people because they can see the patterns and strategies of work and money. So you find people who have millions of dollars oftentimes have 7s in their numbers because there's a strategy to making money. Okay, and there's a structure to businesses and successful businesses. And if you can figure out that structure, you can do it. You know, it's pretty straightforward. So the 7 is considered kind of a masculine number because it's considered cognitive, but numerologically it's actually considered feminine because it's about trying to see the bigger overview and then say, this is the dream, now how do I get there? What are the steps to get there? So it's like you have to have both. You have to have this and you have to have the sequence at the same time. I always tease 7s and say if I wanted to make a 7 crazy, all I'd have to do is promise them that I was going to do something and not do it, because they just it drives them crazy. It's like a strategy that totally doesn't work in some way. They're just like, that makes no sense, that's completely crazy, right? So that strategy and that structure is really important. So 7s get freaked out if you change plans quickly. Because they're like, well, no, you said we were going to do this, and now we're doing this. I mean, they don't change very well. So they're kind of fixed in their little niche. And so whenever you're dealing, like if I was dealing with a 7, like let's say I was married to a 7, I should not go up to him and say, honey, I just bought the $4,000 leather sofa. That's a surprise. It's too much.
Right.
What would be better to a 7 husband would be to say, honey, I want to buy the $4,000 leather sofa. How can we have that? And then let him create the strategy. We're going to put $200 a month away, da, 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 and then he'll be fine with it. Like if he can do the strategy for it, and then he can make it happen, right? Mm-hmm. So people who are into 7 vibrations are into the stock market because the strategy of making money, the strategy of the market, like all of that kind of thing is really exciting to them. Then if you go to an 8 vibration, the 8 vibration is a figure 8. And so you want to think of the figure 8 actually as a sideways figure 8. So it goes down the front between your legs, up your back, flips over the top of your head, goes down the front between your legs, up your back, flips over the top of your head. So what it means is as above, so below, as below, so above. So 8s want to have this balance between heaven and earth and heaven. So they want to bring earth to heaven and they want to bring heaven to earth.